Welcome back to the Red Dice Diaries, and in today's Players Tips video I'm going to be talking about the idea of giving your characters a goal. Now, this is one thing that's often overlooked by people during the creation of their characters in RPGs. It's dead easy to get caught up in the actual character gen and all the excitement about getting to play a new player character. I still do it myself sometimes, but quite often characters lack any goals beyond the sort of nebulous help the party or go adventuring. Giving a character a goal they can work towards gives your character that little bit of extra depth, and it can also guide your role playing if you find yourselves in a bit of a quiet moment during a session. Everyone in real life has some sort of goal or goals, normally more than one, whether it's to run a marathon, make enough money to support myself and my family, whatever. There's a whole gamut of goals, but everyone in real life has them. So, how do you come up with goals for your characters? Well, you can start off when you first come up with your character background, and I recommend trying to find little seeds for potential character goals during your background and just sort of dotting them amongst the background as you create it. For example, here's a quick character. In a standard fantasy game, I might create a dwarven engineer who grew up in one of the great mountain dwarf holds. His family had always been miners, but he demonstrated a natural flair for engineering and came to the attention of one of the old master artisan engineers of the stronghold, who agreed to train the young dwarf in the ways of his craft. For years, the master engineer had been labouring on a great undertaking, a large archaic machine of bewildering design, and our young dwarf was set to the lesser apprentice task of creating springs, cogs, and all manner of smaller parts that would be included in the great undertaking to help the machine function. On the day that the goblins attacked, however, things were starting to look grim in the dwarf hold, and even the craftsmen had manned the walls, preparing to sell their lives dearly in what must surely be their final hour, when the door to the great hold flew open, and there stood against the dim light filtering from beyond the master artisan engineer, his strange device fixed by a belt around his torso, blinking lights and belching smoke. Pointing a strange nozzle at the advancing savage horde, the engineer squeezed a trigger, and there was a blinding flash of light. When the light cleared, our young hero and a few survivors lay dazed and bewildered, sprawled amongst the wreckage of the mountain. It was as though the vast majority of the huge peak, along with the dwarf hold, the goblin horde, the master engineer, and all but a few of the dwarves, had simply vanished, as though someone had erased them from the world. Now, this is a fairly simple background, only a single paragraph, and yet within it we have numerous possible motivations for our young dwarven engineer, including discover what the intended function of the machine was, did something go wrong with it, or did it function as intended, find out if the machine malfunctioning was due to a fault in the parts that our heroes worked on, find out what happened to those who disappeared, find out if there's a way to return those who disappeared, and, if it requires it, build another machine to return the vanished people. That's just 6 potential motivations I can think of from that simple character background. When you're creating goals, another thing that's quite important is make sure you run them past your GM. It's no good creating a character whose goal is kill all orcs if you're going to be playing in a setting with no greenskins at all. And it could happen, horrifying though that thought may be. A good GM, though, will attempt to accommodate most reasonable character goals, and if a proposed character goal really doesn't fit into a campaign setting, then quite often, in most cases, you can work together with your GM to come up with something similar that has the same sort of feel to it, but that fits better into the campaign setting. For example, to use the sample character, our dwarven engineer that we came up with, perhaps the GM is envisioning a setting where there is no sort of advanced mechanisation. If that were the case, then our use of this machine as a plot device doesn't really fit in with the campaign setting. But there are lots of ways that this background could be tweaked to fit such a setting. Perhaps instead of a machine, the engineer was a devout runesmith working on a runic magical weapon. Or maybe it was a prayer to ancient and forgotten gods, mispronounced or not, that disappeared the mountain and the dwarves. Perhaps the horde was stopped when a maelstrom of magic or a portal appeared from nowhere, and our hero is now seeking a way to find out where the portal took his people, and if and how they can be brought back. And they're just a few ways that such a background could be adapted. The important thing is to sit down with your GM and work out a solution that works for both you, your GM, and the rest of the party and the game as a whole, since you'll all benefit from having these goals and having them incorporated into the setting. There are a few main benefits of having character goals. Having them established gives you more confidence when it comes to discussing your character's background, with other characters. If you know that your character is a person haunted by his past and looking for his lost people, then you can have that colour your roleplay appropriately. You can draw on it to guide how you roleplay your character, and you can discuss it, or not, depending on what your character's views are, with other people. Working out your character goals with the GM, and if possible other player characters, can help to tie an adventuring party together, and it can also help your character feel like they are part of the campaign world and get you invested in it, rather than all of the background and campaign work being done in advance and having been established already, and your character's just sort of created in isolation and parachuted into it at the last minute. Another useful place for character goals are when you've reached a pause or a quiet point in the game, when you're not sure what to do. If you've got a character goal, or preferably more than one, then there's always something you can be doing to pursue those goals. Are you recuperating in a small village? Perhaps visit a tavern and ask the locals whether they know anything about the evil sorcerer who has haunted your character's dreams since he was a child. After all, it's a poorly kept secret that GMs love an excuse to bring characters into the plot. If you're there giving them these reasons and saying, look, here's how my character's trying to get involved in this personal plot, here's how I'm trying to involve others, the GM will no doubt be more than willing to throw you some plot hooks and get you more involved in the game. Maybe the party's split and you're not currently involved in the activities that the GM's adjudicating. Perhaps roleplay some on-the-road conversations with other player characters who are sitting idle, making sure not to disturb the GM and the players that they're talking to, obviously. You can bring in elements of your goals and your backgrounds to start these discussions and to give you things to talk about. And it keeps you all occupied and entertained while the GM's off doing his thing. The GM will be grateful for the fact you're not just sitting there twiddling your thumbs or dropping out of character. And it can help the party gel together a bit more as you find out a bit more about each other's characters. So, in conclusion, character goals can provide a great source of roleplay and can be very useful for bringing parties together and getting everyone invested in the campaign world. But it doesn't stop there. As you play your character, be on the lookout as well for opportunities to create new goals, since your character will eventually accomplish some of their original goals, be it successfully or not successfully, and you don't really want to be sat there twiddling your thumbs or being unsure of what to do or cast adrift with no further goals to pursue. So be on the lookout for new goals that your character can get involved in, new vendettas, new missions, new people to find. There's always ways that you can add new goals to your character. So keep an eye out for them as it goes along, and that way, once you've achieved some of your original goals and you've ticked them off your list, you'll have new ones that you can pursue and you won't find yourself sitting idle or unsure of what to do. So there's a few hints and tips based around coming up with character goals. Please let me know what you think in the comments box below or hit me up in the Google Plus links. I hope if you've enjoyed this video that you'll click on like and subscribe to the channel. We put out new videos every week. And until I see you next time, thank you very much for watching and for listening. Take care.